AI deal shift. Microsoft redefines OpenAI partnership. Microsoft and OpenAI are renegotiating their multi-billion-dollar partnership deal to better align with each company's evolving goals in the artificial intelligence race. The Financial Times reported. Microsoft's rumored willingness to reduce its OpenAI equity in favor of longer-term tech access signals a shift from financial patronage to platform pragmatism, noted Sanchit Gogia, chief analyst at Greyhound Research. We see this as Microsoft doubling down on AI enablement over AI ownership, a move that could widen its appeal while containing regulatory risk. As quoted in computerworld.com, in an article authored by Gyana Swain published on May 12, 2025. Beyond the media quote, our view in full. Press for time? You can focus solely on the Greyhound flashpoints that follow. Each one distills the full analysis into a sharp, executive-ready takeaway, combining our official standpoint, validated through Pulse data from ongoing CXO trackers, and grounded in field notes from real-world advisory engagements. Microsoft OpenAI renegotiations signal power realignment in enterprise AI. Greyhound Flashpoint. The reported Microsoft OpenAI renegotiations mark a strategic inflection in the enterprise AI stack. Per Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025, 63% of Fortune 500 CIOs cite vendor dependency in foundational AI models as their top ecosystem risk. These talks suggest a decoupling of control from capital, a new calculus in co-developing AGI. At Greyhound Research, we believe this renegotiation is less about dilution and more about redefining dominance. Who truly gets to steer, not just subsidize, the future of enterprise AI? Greyhound standpoint. According to Greyhound Research, the Microsoft OpenAI partnership is entering a new phase of maturity, one where control, not just investment, determines value. As Gen AI shifts from experimentation to production, hyperscalers like Microsoft must navigate competing needs, ecosystem neutrality, internal product integration, e.g., Copilot, and regulatory optics. By potentially reducing its equity exposure while securing privileged access, Microsoft could signal confidence in its broader AI infrastructure, Azure Phi 3, M365 Copilot, and reduce the risks associated with OpenAI's governance flux. This rebalancing suggests a longer game, favoring utility over ownership. Greyhound Pulse. In Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025, 71% of global CIOs express concern about becoming overly reliant on a single AI model provider, especially in light of governance uncertainty. Of those using OpenAI models via Azure, 54% are now actively evaluating alternatives, including Anthropic, Cohere, and open-weight options. The primary concern isn't technical performance. It's about the longevity and predictability of access terms. CIOs are increasingly urging vendors to decouple strategic access to AI capability from opaque startup politics. Greyhound Field Note. Per a recent Greyhound Field Note from an Asia-Pacific bank's transformation office, while the CIO remains impressed with GPT-4's enterprise readiness, internal risk functions flagged uncertainty about long-term model support, escalation paths, and regulatory traceability. The firm is now exploring a dual-stack model, OpenAI for experimentation, and open-source models like Mistral for production workflows, to regain control of auditability and versioning. What a public benefit corporation could mean for OpenAI and the AI industry. Greyhound Flashpoint. If OpenAI transitions to a full public benefit corporation, PBC, it could reset the incentives landscape in AI. Per Greyhound Policy Pulse 2025, 58% of policymakers across the EU and US view hybrid AI governance models as structurally unstable. At Greyhound Research, we believe a PBC shift would formalize OpenAI's dual mandate and catalyze wider adoption of stewardship-driven AI models across the industry, but only if paired with transparent accountability mechanisms. Greyhound standpoint. According to Greyhound Research, OpenAI's move toward a PBC could establish a third path between profit-maximizing big tech models and ideologically rigid open-source collectives. If executed with rigor, this could inspire new governance templates that blend commercial viability with long-term public interest. However, success hinges on credible checks and board independence. Absent that, it risks becoming a rhetorical fig leaf for commercial continuity. In a sector where trust compounds slowly and erodes quickly, structural symbolism must meet operational clarity. Greyhound Pulse. Per Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025, many enterprise legal teams still rate OpenAI as opaque on compliance disclosures, especially around training data governance, fine-tuning guardrails, and systemic risk assessment. While the idea of a PBC is viewed positively in principle, not all firms believe it would lead to meaningful changes in vendor transparency unless coupled with external audit rights and interoperability standards. The appetite for mission-driven AI providers is rising, but so is scrutiny. Greyhound Field Note. In a Greyhound Field Note from a European major, the chief risk officer noted that the lack of clarity around OpenAI's governance mechanics post-Altman's reinstatement delayed approval for GPT-based tools. Despite the model's capability, the firm's ethics board flagged the tension between private investor returns and long-term safety testing of AI-generated compound suggestions. A potential PBC structure has renewed interest internally, but trust remains contingent on execution, not promise. OpenAI's pursuit of AGI under investor pressure can both coexist. Greyhound Flashpoint, OpenAI's dual mandate, building AGI safely while satisfying investor returns, remains its defining tension. Per Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025, many of technology leaders we engage with view OpenAI's strategy as vision-rich but governance-weak. At Greyhound Research, we argue that AGI is not just a technological challenge, but an organizational contradiction. The faster OpenAI moves, the less consensus it can sustain. The cost of AGI isn't just compute, it's credibility. Greyhound Standpoint. According to Greyhound Research, OpenAI's challenge is not ambition, but alignment. AGI requires long-range thinking, multidisciplinary caution, and often uncomfortable trade-offs. Meanwhile, investor expectations are measured in quarterly cycles. Bridging these timelines will demand more than charismatic leadership. It requires structural insulation. Without robust guardrails that prevent short-term commercialization from overriding safety imperatives, OpenAI risks undermining its founding ethos. The Sam Altman-led revival may bring strategic clarity, but sustaining trust will require architectural discipline. Greyhound Pulse. In Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025, only small percentage of global enterprise architects believe OpenAI's current governance structure is fit for purpose for AGI development. When asked about their top concern, many cited speed over scrutiny as the dominant risk. Interestingly, some said they would prefer OpenAI pivot to foundational AI models with commercial-grade support rather than pursue AGI outright. The enterprise demand curve favors stability, not speculative breakthroughs. Microsoft's strategic gamble: less equity, more control. Greyhound Flashpoint. Microsoft's rumored willingness to reduce its OpenAI equity in favor of longer-term tech access signals a shift from financial patronage to platform pragmatism. Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025 finds 74% of CIOs prioritize platform continuity over model exclusivity. At Greyhound Research, we see this as Microsoft doubling down on AI enablement over AI ownership, a move that could widen its appeal while containing regulatory risk. Greyhound Standpoint. According to Greyhound Research, this pivot allows Microsoft to retain practical control, access to models, co-engineering rights, deep Azure integrations, while insulating itself from OpenAI's reputational and regulatory volatility. As the EU and US regulators intensify scrutiny over monopolistic alliances in AI, decoupling equity from access allows Microsoft to continue scaling its Copilot ecosystem without triggering red flags. The advantage? Continued first-mover status in enterprise AI without overexposure to startup instability. Greyhound Pulse. Per Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025, 48% of enterprise CIOs believe hyperscalers should function as ecosystem orchestrators, not proprietary gatekeepers. Among Microsoft clients, 57% say their primary value is Azure integration and enterprise service consistency, not exclusive model access. The recalibration from ownership to orchestration is seen as a maturity move, especially as clients demand clarity on uptime SLAs, data residency, and inference cost predictability. Greyhound Field Note. From a recent Greyhound Field Note with a telco, the CTO shared that while they use GPT-4 through Azure, the partnership's complexity raised questions in board discussions. The concern wasn't performance, but long-term entanglement. If Microsoft owns too much of OpenAI, and OpenAI becomes the issue, what's our risk exposure? They asked. A reduced equity footprint paired with a commercial-first access strategy has made the client more comfortable committing to Copilot and Azure ML workloads for regulated use cases. Analyst in focus: Sanchit Gogia. Sanchit Gogia, or SVG as he is popularly known, is a globally recognized technology analyst. innovation strategist, digital consultant, and board advisor. SVG is the chief analyst, founder and CEO of Greyhound Research, a global, award-winning technology research, advisory, consulting, and education firm. Greyhound Research works closely with global organizations, their CXOs, and the board of directors on technology and digital transformation decisions. SVG is also the founder and CEO of the House of Greyhound, an eclectic venture focusing on interdisciplinary innovation. Copyright policy. All content contained on the Greyhound Research website is protected by copyright law and may not be reproduced, distributed, transmitted, displayed, published, or broadcast without the prior written permission of Greyhound Research or, in the case of third-party materials, the prior written consent of the copyright owner of that content. You may not alter, delete, obscure, or conceal any trademark, copyright, or other notice appearing in any Greyhound Research content. We request our readers not to copy Greyhound Research content and not republish or redistribute them, in whole or partially, via emails or republishing them in any media, including websites, newsletters, or intranets. We understand that you may want to share this content with others, so we've added tools under each content piece that allow you to share the content. If you have any questions, please get in touch with our community relations team at connect@thofker.com.